Hey everybody, Adam here, So Wizard Podcast. I'm sitting down with JD Oliva from Superhero Speak. How you doing, JD?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time. This is a cool other venture to get into, and I don't generally do the crossovers with the Geek World All Star podcasts.
Yeah, this is actually my first time doing anyone else in the Geek World All Stars universe. So it's pretty cool talking to you today. Thanks, man.
Oh, nice, yeah. And we're here today not about our podcast, but because you have a novel coming out.
Yeah, we've got a Kickstarter out for my book Harvest Moon. We're calling it the special edition, and the campaign is launched on Monday, and it's Wednesday, and we've already double funded. We're
Wow.
225%. It was a small goal, but we absolutely blew it out of the water. So, man, we're doing really good. I'm just out there trying to get the word out for it and get people excited.
Is this your first novel you've put out there?
Well, it's funny. This was my first novel. It was the second novel I've released. This is actually a re-release. It's lived on Amazon for the past 10 months, and this is me getting out of Amazon, focusing on the print edition more so than the ebook edition. So this is kind of my re-entry. We've got a new cover, tweaked a few things, and we've also got 5 of my other novels available to purchase within this campaign. So I've got 9 books out total.
Nice. Going way back before all that, what got you into writing?
Oh, I went to film school. Like I always wanted to make movies and tell stories and stuff like that, and I did it. I made an independent feature length, and I made like a higher budget independent short film. And after that, I was like, this sucks. I hate doing it. I hate filmmaking. So from then on, I've been doing comics, and I was in comics for about a decade, and now I've kind of made the jump over to novels.
Wow, you've had your hands in pretty much everything pop culture, it sounds like.
I try to.
So your writing spark, I mean, I know you said you went to film school and everything, but was it something you did maybe as a kid?
Oh yeah, I was a little kid now. I had my parents or my grandpa actually bought me a typewriter for my I want to say it's my 9th birthday. So I was always writing stories, like those little word processors and stuff like that. Like I was always writing stories. I was always, saying, "Oh, this is a movie I'm going to make," and I would just make up some type of a story. So I mean, I've always been into this sort of thing. Like my brain doesn't operate unless I'm coming up with some type of an idea for a story. So this has always been kind of where my interests lie.
Nice. And
Let's go, Dr.
Sorry,
Steve's.
the 4-year-old just ran in the room.
it's all right.
Do you have to go with Dr. Steve's?
I know I don't have to go to Dr. Steve's today. Go hang out, buddy. Sorry about that.
It's all right. Do you have a specific genre you like to work in, or are you kind of all over the place?
So right now with the prose stuff, I'm really focusing on horror and like supernatural thriller. I'm really kind of more into like right now I'm really having a good time kind of playing in those worlds like kind of almost kind of Stephen King-ish. That's really what I'm into at the moment. So Harvest Moon is it's like a procedural thriller that turns into a werewolf story. And that's kind of where my Jericho books go too, is they're like thrillers, but they all have like a big supernatural bend to it. So it's like, what if John Wick worked the X-Files type of deal?
Nice. That sounds cool.
I think so. I'm partial to him, but I like the concept of him.
Did you work in a similar vein in your comic experiences?
Honestly, not really. My comics, the book we put out in 2014 was called Deluge. It was a like a hard-boiled crime story that took place during Hurricane Katrina. And like when I put that out, it got like a lot of good reviews. People like, oh, it'd be easier if you work more supernatural. That stuff sells better. So with that in mind, my brain has just always gone more toward the supernatural stuff. And I can't seem to get out of it. Like I'm really enjoying, playing in these, these like supernatural worlds. These like, it's kind of like the worlds I kind of write about are like, they feel like the real world, except like there's strange stuff that goes on just behind your shoulder. Like the world feels very lived in. It feels very realistic. And then people have to deal with like these crazy out of this world events that happen.
That's cool. I like that the crossover. It's also nice that somebody said, hey, this sells better, work in this, and it turned out to be something that you actually enjoyed and you're not just trying to force it so it sells better.
No, it is like you gotta like what you do, and like trying to do this as a living is tough. And there's a lot of people I know that like romance absolutely dominates on Amazon. there's so much of it and people love it, but you know, they're like, oh, you got to write romance. And I'm like, I can't do that. Like I just, my brain doesn't work that way. But you see, yeah, I talked to some friends that write in that genre. My God, the money they make. But I mean, if I was trying to do that and just paint by numbers the whole time, I'd be miserable. So I'd rather
Yeah,
write about monsters.
you'd lose all the benefits of the having a creative pursuit.
Right. You might as well work at McDonald's at that point, because if it really is just about the money, you know, it's all that time and effort that goes into being the indie side of being an independent writer. Like you have to market yourself, you have to do all the work on your own. So, I mean, like if I don't believe in what I'm doing, I'm just doing it for the paycheck. I wouldn't have the passion to you know, do this right now and talk to you. I would just be, you know, be like whatever, just be like a job.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I understand you there. I'm sure a lot of people listening do.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're going to spend the time to write all this stuff and you know be in your head all the time, you might as well really love what you're doing and love the worlds you're creating. So, like I said, this is fun for me to get out and talk about these kind of things.
Is this a lot different experience than when you had, you said you have 10 books out there, so I guess you've been doing it for a while. But
2 years, 2 years.
oh, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's prolific.
You have to be like when you write prose, it's about the next one. Like the best way to advertise your book is to write a new book. So I mean, like I'm super disciplined. I don't have a lot of time to watch TV or to like, you know, explore other hobbies. Like I'm hanging out with my kid. I'm a high school wrestling coach, and when I'm not doing that, man, I'm writing. Like I'm coming up with a story, or I'm writing it, or I'm working on the marketing. Like it's work. It's work.
Okay, so it's not like you put book one out, that pays the bills for a bit, it peters out. Book two, that pays the bills. Like book two is feeding book one, book three is feeding book two and one.
Yep, it's all like you put one out. I think I put Harvest Moon out the first time last September, and then the follow-up story came out 3 weeks later.
Wow.
So I mean, that's just the way it goes. Like you're constantly putting out stuff. I put out 2 books earlier this summer while gearing up for this Kickstarter campaign in a different genre of stuff. But so it's constantly doing stuff. Like you're constantly feeding that beast, which is fine. I enjoy it that way. The more books you have, the better. There's this theory in independent publishing. It's 20 books to 50K. The I thought is the average writer can make $50,000 a year with 20 books. So I mean, that's kind of the benchmark that a lot of people want to hit. Like I know people that have literally hundreds of books out.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around the amount of words you have to put down on paper.
You know, mine's kind of like my average book's about 65, 70,000 words. It's about 250, 300 pages. And it's, you know, it's not that hard. Like I've got a pace now where I write about 3,000 words a night. If I can pace it out, it takes me about a month to get a first draft done. And then about another couple of weeks of working through it before it's ready to go to an editor. So it takes me about 2 months in total to write a book.
So you're constantly have your head in, it sounds like 2 to 3 different projects at a time.
Yeah, I'm about 10 projects deep right now, about in various stages. Like I've got the next 7 books planned that I want to do.
And are these all in a series, or is it a couple in a series here, a couple in a series there?
A couple in the Books of Jericho series that's associated with this Harvest Moon book. So I've got 5 more books planned for there, and I've got 2 more independents, like one in one series, one on just a standalone series. I do want to do a couple standalones here and there, but yeah, it's all various levels of things to write.
Do you ever have trouble keeping the stories straight in your head, or once you're in that world, you just kind of flip the switch?
For me, I can flip the switch. If I can't remember a story that I came up with, I didn't like it that much is the way I figure. Because I have to kind of digest, I have to kind of think about something for several months before I can write it. Like I can't just think, oh, I have an idea and just put it all down. Like it takes me some time to gestate it a little bit before I can put it down. So I've never forgotten a story that I've came up with and that I liked. The details are different, but if I have a concept for a story, it usually sticks with me. And I figure if it doesn't, it must not have been that good to begin with.
It's a really good way to look at it.
That's what I figure. So if I like it, it's going to stay in my head. If I don't like it, it's not. There's been times I've remembered stuff I came up with years earlier, you know, where I'll be in the shower. So I'm like, oh yeah, remember that thing? Maybe I should play with that. So yeah,
nothing goes to waste.
I try not to. Like I said, I got a lot of ideas, and you know, not all of them are great. But I mean, if I find something, like if something hooks me, I'll know that it's kind of time to pay attention to that one a little bit.
That's awesome. So what's your editorial process like?
I have an editor, and when I'm finished with something, like I'll usually do about 2 drafts, and then I'll send it off to her. And she's pretty quick, so she gets through them pretty fast, and then I'll knock out the next draft based on her words and suggestions. and then that takes me a couple days, and then I'll send it off to my proofreader, who's kind of like my sort of my last line of defense. She finds all my mistakes, of which there's plenty. Um, everyone's got a weakness. Like I'll let grammar slide through sometimes because you're trying to write. So
Right.
she's kind of my last line. She'll find it, and then I make those corrections. And then I have an ARC team, which is like advanced reader team. There, I've got 25 people that read the book before it goes out, and they're really the last line. They'll give me their thoughts on what they think, and usually it's maybe a couple things slip through the cracks on the editing process, or they'll give me their thoughts, and then in exchange they'll put a review on Amazon or something like that when it's ready to go. So I give them a free book, they give me a free review, and that's
Nice.
kind of that's kind of how the editorial process has gone so far. So I'll do about 2 drafts cold, one to the editor, one to the proofreader, one to the IRC team, and then the book is ready.
So your kind of team there, your walls of defense, like you're saying, do they look for just technical things like, hey, this is grammar, it's right or it's wrong, or do they give you story suggestions and pacing things? And
My editor will do that if she thinks the pacing is off, or if she's not feeling what I've done somewhere. She'll say, hey, I don't, this isn't great, or I'm not feeling this. And usually what she says, if she said makes a suggestion and I feel it, I know it's the right call. Like there's times she'll say, I think you should address this, and if I don't like it, I'm like, because ultimately she works for me. So I mean, like I follow probably 90% of what she gives me, but there's sometimes we'll disagree a little bit. The proofreader, not as much. Her job is just to find the errors and stuff like that, and make sure like my spelling is on top, and sentences are complete and whatnot. And the ARC team, same thing. Some I'll get suggestions from them. We'll be like, oh, they're like, oh, I didn't care for this in here, and that's okay. If it's gotten to that point and they don't like it, I'm okay with it. At
yeah,
that
by
point,
then you've
I'm good
done
with it.
5 drafts.
Yeah, by then I'm fine. I'm like, I believe in the story. And for the most part, I've never, like, again, I've had people say, I don't like this one. And that's totally cool. Like, not everyone's going to like everything you do all the time. And having a couple of reviews on your Amazon page that are like 3 stars, 2 stars, that's okay. It makes it gives it more like real. It makes it more real. Like, if everything's a 5 star, you look and go, that's suspect. That doesn't seem realistic. Like, no one's perfect on everything. And it's
Yeah,
okay. That's why having a 1 star review here and there, it's not a bad thing. It legitimizes you. Because, if you've gotten a reaction from people that they sincerely hate it, at least they felt something.
that's
You don't
true.
want you don't want too many of them. Like Harvest Moon, I think we have like on the Amazon page, I think there's like 50 5 star reviews and like 2 1 star reviews. So the two
Oh,
1 star
yeah. So
reviews give me some credit, but I wouldn't want it the other way around. We'll put it that way.
yeah, yeah, I don't blame you there, but you have a really healthy outlook on the whole creative process, which is nice.
I think you have to, especially if you're trying to make a living doing it. Like you can't live and die with your books. Like you have to treat them as they have to be work. Like it's work that you love to do, but it is work, and all work can be better.
I like that because I imagine a lot of people go into the creative pursuits with that in mind. Like, hey, not everyone's going to love it. If someone says something negative, this happens, and they get a review and they argumentative or defensive, whatever it could be.
Yeah, never respond to a review, even if you can. I've had stuff that's terrible. Like I've had just like what is this review? Like it's totally wrong, but that's okay. That's their opinion, and there's nothing worse you can do as a writer than find someone who gave you a bad review and try to talk to them. And
Yeah.
I've heard from people that try to do that, and that just makes you look like a crazy person. Just hey, you didn't win them on that day. Move on. It's
It
all
also
good.
sounds like a huge waste of your time.
Significantly, but I mean, yeah, you can't. We're all like, if you're creative, you've got a little bit of a fragile ego. We all kind of do, and that's okay. But you just have to learn to accept the fact that you're not everybody's, for the use a better cliche, cup of tea. Like you're not going to get everybody. And that's perfectly fine. Like one of my mentors is a guy named Tyler James, a phenomenal comic creator, great businessman. He's got me to subscribe to the 1,000 true fans theory. Like if you can find 1,000 people that dig what you do and are on board with what you do and are willing to spend $100 a year on what you put out, you're going to live very comfortably. So I've come to like subscribe to this theory. It's like, okay, if I can just find 1,000 people that love what I do, I'll be fine. And if someone says I don't like it, that's perfectly fine. Then I don't have to waste my time working with you because you're not going to get on board. I'll find someone else that does.
Yeah, that's really good. You should do motivational speeches for aspiring writers.
Thanks, man. I said I'm a high school wrestling coach, so I know how to talk to people and get them going a little bit. So thanks for saying
Yeah,
that.
you're just framing all this stuff in such nice, succinct ways, and it's like 1,000 people. That's not a big number. We got 300 million in this country alone.
That's right. I mean, like, and because he broke down with Stephen King. Stephen King's the most successful writer in the world, right? And he's got how many fans? He trumped like it was like a million something fans. And he's like, you put it in the grand scheme of the United States, he's an epic failure. But it's Stephen King. You know what I'm saying? And when you hear it like that, it's like, oh, that makes perfect sense. And you don't have to be Stephen King to make a living. You know,
Yeah,
so it's better to and I try to explain to people it's better to be in the niche because there's room in niches and there's money in niches. Like you don't have to cast a wide net and try to get everybody. You just got to get the right people, and then you can be happy creating what you love to create, and financially okay. And that's it takes a while to get there, but if you have the plan and you're going toward the direction, it's attainable.
sure. And if it's a passion too, it helps you along the way.
You got to have the passion, man. If you don't love this, like it's work. Like I was telling somebody I've done the last 7 days, I've done like 10 or 12 podcasts. I've actually lost count. If I didn't love talking about my stuff and my work, this would be murder.
Yeah.
Because I'm not gonna lie, I'm exhausted. Like I literally just got off a call of doing it, but I get to talk about my work. Like it's fantastic. So if you don't love what you're doing, it's gonna come through in the work.
And did you do these kind of, I guess, press rounds is what they are for your Kindle releases as well?
No, and this has been a great experiment of mine. Is like, and that's why I wanted to go to Kickstarter. Is like Kickstarter creates these events around a release. Like everyone in the Amazon world, which is again where I was being educated the last few years, like you do your email list and they have their ways of doing things. And I'll put out a book and I'll even my social media like, hey, I got a new book out on Amazon. Da 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 da. Da. But when I've created this Kickstarter, like all of a sudden people that I know are jumping on board in ways they haven't before. So that's just educating me in the fact that, okay, so every time I do these releases, I have to go big with them because the only way it's going to get attention drummed up. And using Kickstarter is a fantastic platform because like you build an event around a book. It's different saying, hey, I got a new book out. It's like, no, I've got this campaign and it's got all this stuff. You can just get this book and that book. And we're selling our cover, which is this beautiful, gory werewolf. And, there's all these little extra bells and whistles. And all that does is bring extra attention. Like in 2 days, I've outperformed the last 3 or 4 months on Amazon together.
And
yeah.
And the stuff is still on Amazon too, so you might be getting even more benefit.
And that's the fun part is my numbers on Amazon have ticked up for this book while doing this campaign. Because they're different audiences. Like the people that are buying from Kickstarter don't typically, hang out on Amazon or aren't Kindle Unlimited readers. So my theory of reaching out to a different group of people has been applicable. It's worked. It's working, I should say. Like I said, in 2 days, we doubled our goal. I have to go back to the campaign and add more stuff to it because I got a whole month left of this campaigning and I need to do more because it's great. I mean, like it's outperformed what I expected it to. Again, the ask was low because I didn't really know how it was going to work. There's not a lot of Kickstarter fiction books, tons and tons in comics, but this is not a well-worn philosophy in the fiction world. So it's fun to kind of be one of the guys that are doing something a little bit different. But now I gotta level up my campaign in the middle of my campaign, which is cool because you can still get better and get more eyes on it and do more cool things. So it's work, man. This is like running this Kickstarter is like a full-time job at this point.
It sounds it, yeah, but that also sounds like a good problem to have.
It's awesome. I got no complaints right now. It's going pretty good. So no worries on my end for sure.
So what it spurred on you wanting to get away, well, maybe not away from Amazon, but to expand on what you're doing?
Well, the Amazon, when you're on Amazon, they try to get you into their Kindle Unlimited program, which is their subscription program. And they, when you're there, it keeps everything nice and centered. So you don't have to have it in a million different places. It's all clean. You're just on Amazon. The problem is when you're in Kindle Unlimited, you can't put your book anywhere else. So, and there's people that make a lot of money through Kindle Unlimited, but at early part of the year, like the early part of the pandemic, I kind of hit a plateau and I kept working and I kept doing things. I kept trying to throw more promotions, but like, it really wasn't, I didn't see the results. And I'm like, I can't seem to get over this hump. And I honestly, I was listening to a podcast where a guy talked about doing Kickstarters for writing, and I'd always heard you shouldn't do it. And I'd run Kickstarters for comics in the past that have been successful. And I thought to myself, I'm like, well, I need to do something different. I need to reach these people that I know would like my books, but that aren't hanging on Kickstarter. I mean, there's not, or not, sorry, they aren't hanging on Amazon. There's not a big horror market on Amazon Kindle. Like, there just isn't. Like, it's good for thrillers, it's good for romance, but horror, it's trickier. So I'm like, all right, I got to bend over backwards to find the right people. And I thought Kickstarter would probably be the good place to do it. This has all been a giant experiment, and it's paid off. Like I said, I took a hit because I did take all my books out of Kindle Unlimited, and that has hurt the Amazon bottom line a little bit, but it wasn't that great to begin with. But now when this is done, it's going to go everywhere. We're going to have it in Kobo, Barnes and Noble, all kinds of places, and it'll still be on Amazon. It just won't be Amazon exclusive, and Amazon won't give me the perks. But I've kind of proven I don't need them right now, so that's okay.
It sounds like over the time you've built your audience, so as long as it's available there, if they want it on Kindle, they can still get it.
Yep, and that's the idea, is not to just limit myself to the people that hang out on Kindle, because I do have people on my email list like, oh, I don't buy Kindle, or I'm Australian, we use Kobo, and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, let's expand a little bit, because there are competitors out there, and I'm very, very low on Amazon's priority list as a creator. But for me, I'm number one. So, by going outside of it, and if I can run a Kickstarter every quarter for a new property, or, relaunch something, I think that'd be a good way to run a business. So, hopefully we can keep growing it.
Nice. I mean, I know you're working out as you go, but it sounds like you really have a good idea of what's going on and what your next steps are.
Well, it's like writing a book. Like, you write, like for me, I write a tight outline, but as I'm writing the book, there's always changes that have to be made, because things go in places you don't expect, or you have to expand on something, or you wrote this little spot and it really doesn't work the way you thought it would when you were planning. So you move as you go along. And it's the same thing as this when business is like, this is working for now, so we're going to make this part work. This isn't working as much, so work on what can be better, or move on. Because businesses shouldn't be stagnant. You're trying to move it all the time. You're trying to grow it. You're trying to make it more functional. And then that process it's like, you can't just turn it on and expect it to work. At least I can't. Like, I'm not that good. I don't have that much of a machine behind me. So I'm constantly in a okay, what can be better? How can I be better? What can I do this to make this work better? So it's this little experiment of mine is already a success. So I just need to keep it moving.
That's awesome. I mean, it sounds like all positive things. It's great.
Trying, man.
Do you want to tell everybody where they can find your like your socials and of course your Kickstarter?
Yeah, the Kickstarter right now, I didn't get to get a cool URL from Kickstarter. Still disappointed, not big time enough yet. So Kickstarter, you just got to search Harvest Moon, and it'll come up. My name is JD Oliva. I'm at Twitter. It's at JD_OLIVA. I'm on Twitter a lot. I've got my Facebook writer page, which is JD Oliva Writer on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, but that's just more pictures of my kid than anything. I haven't been able to make that work as a writer so much, but it's still fun to post pictures. But yeah, right now everything's running through the Kickstarter. I got 2 podcasts I co-host. I'm on Superhero Speak with my buddies John and Dave, and I do a podcast called the Story Builder Podcast with my brother, who's a first-time writer, and our cousin, who's a member of the Directors Guild of America. And we've created this like writers' room type thing where we start a podcast and we'll be like, all right, let's do a kid's story, and we have an hour to come up with a kid's story, or let's do a horror movie. Got an hour to come up with that. We did a heist story. So, I mean, like, well, really, it's fun because you have 1 hour to kind of build a story out of nothing. And I've actually gotten some stuff from that show that I'm going to expand into novels in the future. So it's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much for taking the time. We're going to get this up quickly so people can check out your Kickstarter before they miss it.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, thanks again. And I'd say good luck, but it sounds like you're doing fine.
Trying every day. Every day is a fight, man. You just got to be ready.
That's awesome. Well, thank you again.
Thanks, bud.